So I wanted to share just one idea on one of the Tars in the Likutei Moharan. It's Reish Pei Bet, 200 and what is it, 82, lesson 282, which is probably, I think, the most important lesson in the entire Likutei Moharan. I don't know if it's the highest one or whatnot, but it's definitely one of the most important lessons because Rav Nachman, specifically out of all the Torahs that he wrote in his book, there was one Torah that he told the Hasidim that he wants them to walk with this Torah, and this should be a real part of their life. It's a Torah they should be living at every single moment. All the Torahs, he wanted us to take a Torah for a few months, walk with it, learn it, until you really start living the eitzas and all the advice that Rav Nachman gives in that specific lesson. But one of them, he told his Hasidim, I want you guys to walk with this one. Rav Natan also expands on this. This is probably the reason why his top student, Rav Natan, when he wrote the whole set, of 2,600 pages, Likutei Halachot, the huge set that goes through the entire Torah, the whole 4 books of the Shulchan Aruch, very unbelievable. It's basically, for those who don't know, it's a book that it goes through every single halacha, beginning in waking up in the morning, like the first halacha in the Jewish law, and it goes through every halacha you can imagine. Marriage, divorce, buying, selling, sacrifices, all the holidays, customs, and it takes it through the 4 levels of the Torah. It begins off with the pshat of the actual, what the halacha is, brings the law, and then it goes from there into the Remez, Drush, and Sod, and he ties it into the Gemaras and the Tanakh and the secrets, the Midrashim, the Zohar, Kabbalah. It's an unbelievable. It gives real life to these halachas that we're always doing and keeping, but we don't understand why, what's the depth of it. I was just learning this evening, we were learning about Reish Pei Bet, about the Nekudot Havot, about the sacrifices, and it was like a simple thing. Somebody was at the class listening, was like, I never understood why in the morning, we say these korbanot, we're talking about all these sacrifices and this incense that we're bringing, and what's this all about? What is this, some sort of cult? We're bringing incenses and we're sacrificing, and there's this whole thing, this is like a preparation for the prayer that we get to, the silent prayer later on. So what's this all about? And then Reb Natan over there was teaching that it's all basically the nekudot avot, those little rays of light that every person has from within him, hundreds and hundreds of little candles that are his good deeds and his good actions, and his good midot, his characteristics that are good. The things that he might not necessarily pay attention to or see, but other people see all these things from within him. So those are every person's nekudot avot, and they're usually inside the darkness because a person doesn't look at them and make a thing out of them. He makes usually a much bigger deal about all the hardships and the things he did wrong and what he's not good at, and his lack of confidence or whatnot. That's what a person focuses on, and that's what he makes a big deal out of. But really, that's just the darkness that's covering over these little rays of light. And Rav Nachman says that when a person takes these nekudot and he focuses on them and he makes a thing out of them and he speaks about them and he sings them and he I said modeh, I did this mitzvah, and he makes a big deal out of it. What he's doing is he lights up that candle. He lights up that little spark of holiness, that little spark of God that's from within him. Because we know that the Kudsha Brichu V'Oraita B'Yisrael Kulachad, that God and the Torah and Am Yisrael, it's all one. Our souls and the Torah and Hashem, it's all oneness. It's all the oneness of Hashem. So if a person did something good, he did a mitzvah, anything, whatever he did, that little thing that he did is a ray of light. That's a part of Hashem. So as soon as he makes a deal out of it, he makes an inyan out of it and starts speaking about it, what he's doing is he's lighting up that candle. So all that darkness around it just disappears and evaporates. So Reb Natan, out of this entire set that he did, I missed the point. So the point is that the korbanot, right, is the ketoret. What's the inyan of the incense? Sacrifice is another whole thing. It'll take too long. But the incense, the thing about the incense is that one of the parts of the incense, one of the herbs was called cheldana. Cheldana was an herb that had a really bad smell, and it had to be a part of the 11 incense. So Rav Natan says that really the 11 incense, it's really 10, right? It should be 10. So it's not 11, it's 10 and another 1. The 10 represents everybody that's in the category of holiness, everybody that's close to Hashem. And the 1, the Chel Benah, the one that smells bad, that's corresponds to the Poshei Israel, the ones that feel that they're far from Hashem, the ones that are what they call, in today's language, the Chilonim, the whatever name you want to use, right? I don't like using those names, but the people who feel that they're far from Hashem, and because they feel that they're far, so they don't get close and they don't do mitzvahs and they don't do stuff because they feel like they're not worthy. So that's the Chel Benah. So you cannot, if you just had the 10 incense, if it was just the 10, then you can't use it as an incense. It's puzzle. You cannot use it in the Beis HaMikdash with the sacrifices. And we know the Kohen Gadol was when he went once a year into the Holy of Holies, right? He said some prayers there and he took in incense. There was no other, that's what he took into the Holy of Holies. So the incense, in order for it to be kosher, in order to use the incense, it has to have, those 10 need to join and bring in the Chel Benah. They need to bring in Poshei Israel. Like Chazal say, Kol Tfilah and by Poshei Israel and not Tfilah, a prayer that doesn't have from within it included Poshei Israel, those who are, right, they call the sinners of Israel, the ones that are far, is not considered a prayer. It's not a complete prayer. Because it has to have, and there's all stories of the Baal Shem Tov that it would always bring the ones that are far, bring them in and include them from within the Kedusha, because you can't, there's no shleimut to it. So after we learned that, the person said, it was like, wow, that's amazing, because it gave such a meaning to why do we do this incense? We're reading about incense in the morning. So anyhow, Reb Natan, out of all these, he goes through the entire Torah, right? He explains all the mitzvahs and all the holidays and everything in this deep, deep way, where he shows you basically the Kabbalah, the pnimiyut, the deep reasoning for why we do all these physical things. And it just gives it it's the one book that's been giving me real chiyut and keeping me basically, keeping me on track, keeping me hanging on, still hanging on to the rope. So Reb Natan, out of all these, all the Torahs in Likutei Moharan, in Reb Nachman's book, right, he could have chosen to begin his whole set of Likutei Halachot. He took Reish Pei Bet. He took this concept of the Nekudot Avot. So basically what the Nekudot Avot are, we know that it says, the rabbis teach us, on one hand it says, Ocheach tochiach tamitecha, that a person has the responsibility when he sees a friend or someone from Israel doing a sin, he has to go and tell him, hey, what you're doing is affecting me, because we're all, one soul. So if one person does something, it affects another person. So you need to go and rebuke him or whatever, but in a nice way, but you need to give him musar. And then in another place, the Gemara comes and says, that Rabbi Akiva said, Tameanim yesh mi sheyachol leochiach b'dor hazeh. I wonder if there's somebody in my generation that knows how to give a proper rebuke. So Reb Nachman learns from that in the second book of Likutei Moharan, and I think lesson 8, he learns from that a person, if Rabbi Akiva in his generation, over 2,000 years ago, said that, then in this generation for sure nobody knows how to give rebuke in a way where you don't make the person embarrass the person or make him feel bad or push him further away. Chazal teach us in Pirkei Avot that you shouldn't judge. Al tadun et chavacha ad shtagil l'mkomo. Never judge a person until you're in his shoes, till you're in his makom. So makom we know is the name of Hashem. Hashem is right. Hashem mekomo shel olam ve'en ha'olam mekomo. God is the place of the world, and the world is not God's place. Meaning God's not dwelling in the world. The world is dwelling from within God, like the baby dwelling inside the womb of the mother. So that's the entire creation. All the creation is like inside of God. So we know Hashem is called the Makom. So it says, don't judge your friend until you get to his Makom, to his place. In other words, until you get to that level where you become one with God and you don't have nothing separating you, no physicality, nothing is separating you. You just become complete, like Moshe Rabbeinu, like complete oneness with God. Then you have the ability to judge someone. But until you get to that level, you're not allowed to judge anyone and look at any of their faults, because you're not in their shoes. And then, and also in Pirkei Avot it says, Al te dan yechidi she'en dan yechidi ela echad. Don't be a single judge, because there's only one single judge. Who's that one single judge? It's God. He's the only one who can judge. It's the Jewish law, right? You're not allowed to judge someone. You can't go and witness against another person unless there's two witnesses. One person cannot witness. So you can't judge someone. You can't be a single judge. The only single judge is Hashem, which means Hashem, because God knows exactly my background. He knows where I come from. He knows all my previous lives and everything that I went through from beginning to end. So God could judge me, right? And no one else could judge. So Rav Nachman from this learns that a person needs to look at his Nikudot Avot. He actually starts off by saying that we need to judge everybody else favorably. Looking at everyone. Rav Natan flips, and Likutei Halacha, Rav Natan flips the order for whatever reason, but Rav Natan says, let's go by Rav Natan's order. Rav Natan says that a person needs to judge himself favorably. And instead of looking at all the things that he does wrong, he needs to start looking and focusing at all the things that he does right. And not even pay attention. Because Rav Natan says that even the tiniest, smallest thing that a person does, even if it's just like a thought of wanting to do something good, a desire to want to do something good, but not doing it, that thing is worth, if you put it on a scale, you can't even put it on a scale, but let's say if you put it on a scale and you took all the sins and all the taivas and everything bad that has been done from beginning of creation till the end on the other side of the scale, it's not even like worth anything compared to that one little desire of something good. Because all of the bad it's just brought into the world in order for freedom of choice. In order for a person to have freedom of choice, he has to have a Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara, the result of the Yetzer Hara is sin. The result, when God created the world with the Yetzer Hara, He knew that we were going to sin. It's just a process of the world. That's just how it has to be. So that doesn't have any existence. That's just there in order to create a challenge for the person. And then a person needs to fight it and try to overcome it, and then when he falls, do tshuva and get back up and keep going. But it's all just a test. That's the only reason why it was brought. So the nikudot avot, all the good deeds that a person did, all those things are like those little candles, or those little things. So when a person looks at that and starts focusing on that and lighting up all those candles, he starts creating this bigger and bigger and bigger light. And that through that, the darkness just disappears on its own. It's a hard thing, because in the nature of human, we focus on the bad. That's just how it is. The news is always bad, right? People they love hearing bad stuff. A person's focusing on all the negative that he did, and he's thinking about the sins and all the things that he should have done that he didn't do. Like, it's very easy, when you see someone from afar at a party or whatever, you see someone straight away, you pick up on like all the things that you see that aren't good, right? The negative. It's the human nature. But the secret is to not look at that, because that doesn't really have an existence. That's like a darkness that if you just put a tiny little candle, it doesn't get rid of, let's say the candle is like half an inch by a half inch, right? It doesn't get rid of half inch by half inch of darkness. It gets rid of darkness in a huge area, which means the darkness really has no power. It has no existence in comparison to the little bit of light. So that little bit of light is godliness. That little bit of light is mamash, a part of Hashem. So when a person focuses on all those little rays of light and little candles that he has from within his life, he starts coming out of the darkness and starts seeing the light, and he starts coming into this like a positive headspace and positive wind. So that's one thing that's very, very important. And Reb Natan speaks about that one first, and then he brings the judging everybody else favorably. That even a person who's so far, he has tons and tons of points of holiness, of goodness that he does from within his life. And what we need to do is we need to look at them and look at every person that you see and remember what we introduced with this thing of not judging people, because you can't judge another person until you're in their shoes. Which means it could be if you were in that situation that they were in, you would have done it 10 times worse than them. Right? You don't know, because we don't know what a person went through. What has this person been through? Like, every person has, just looking at your own personal, what you've been through, you could realize, okay, this person has a whole life, right? The same way I have my whole circle of friends, that person has his whole circle and his family and grandparents and the whole thing. Each person is an entire, creation. So when I start looking at my Nikudot Tovot and I see the good from within me, it gives me the ability, the eyes to be able to start seeing the Nikudot Tovot in another person. And one of the most important things about the Nikudot Tovot is, of course, looking at the Nikudot Tovot in in friends and family, because the people that are around you, and it's everyone, but especially the ones around you, and especially with couples, boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband and wife, especially husband and wife, because the closer people get, the closer the community is, the smaller the community, the tighter the family is, the more you're with each other, and the more you start noticing all the little things that bother you, that they do, that they're getting on your nerves. When it was like a further relationship, more distant relationship, you didn't notice those things, they didn't bother you. So with couples, when they get married and they start getting close to each other, and it's very easy to start focusing and seeing all the things that are bothering you about them. And why do they have to do things this way? And I told them already that this bothers me, and they continue doing it, and they don't really love me, why are they doing it? And we start getting into these thoughts, and not just seeing these little faults, these little dark things that they do, but actually making a deal out of them, and grinding them in our mind, and making, we make them into this much bigger thing that they are. And what happens is all those little nikudot avot, those little good things that they do, the things that you love about them, become smaller and smaller and smaller, because it's like that candle. We said that the more, right, when there's a candle, the bigger the candle is, the more darkness it'll get rid of. But when a person's developing the darkness and looking at the things that he doesn't like about his spouse, and why they're doing things, in a certain way, and they're not respecting me, and so on, everybody, with what they're going through. So then what happens is you're making the darkness bigger and bigger and bigger. And when the darkness gets bigger, then the good nikudot that they have, the things they have, which is why you married them, why you got close to them, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So the judging another person favorably, especially, coming into Shabbos, it's a very, very important thing. Because Friday's always, everybody knows Friday is a difficult day, judgments and yelling and the kids. And Friday's always a heavy day, the day Adam Arishon ate from the tree, the day of the sin, right? So it's even according to Kabbalah, it's a very heavy day. There's a big Nisayon test in anger, especially, right? So this trying to judge favorably, and especially someone that you love and someone you're close to, and to just make an inyan, make every day, make a point of taking a few points, a few things that that you love about them, that that they're so good at, and just speaking about them, even to yourself. Just talk to them, talk to Hashem about, I love this thing about my wife, I love this nekuda, and make those candles, make those little lights, make them get bigger and bigger and bigger. And when a person does this, and he focuses, because if you really look at it in a true eye, if you really sit and you spend time doing it every day, you'll notice that the good that they have is actually much bigger than the bad. There's so much more good than there is bad. And it's like that almost with every person in the world. If you focus on all their good, you'll see that the majority is really good. But we don't see it because we don't make a thing out of it. In the nature of human, we make a thing out of the bad, out of the darkness. So that's just an akuda to hopefully go into Shabbos with, and have an awesome, amazing Shabbos of Shlom Bayit, and seeing the good, and just taking this Eitzah, because Rav Nachman said he wanted us to walk with this Eitzah, and to take this Eitzah in everywhere we go in life, and to really live this one. So this is out of all the lessons Rav Nachman gave. Rav Nachman started with this, his whole set of Likutei Halachot, he started with this lesson, because this is really the lesson to walk with, to look at the good from within yourself, to always judge yourself favorably, and to see the good and not even pay attention, not to care about the bad. The bad is the bad. It just came for a test. Okay, at that point I fell, and I'm doing tshuva, saying, Hashem, I'm sorry, I'm moving forward. And I'm not focusing on it. I'm not making a thing out of it. I'm not, getting into it and dwelling into it. It doesn't give you anything. Just to focus on all my good points and the things that I do good, even if it's very small amounts, just to focus on that, to make a deal out of that. And through that, to just focus on the good in other people, and Bezat Hashem, to have Shlom Bayit and have an awesome, amazing Shabbos, and just see that Nekuda. Shabbos is that little candle of the weekday. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos.